What's up, everybody? You guys remember that desk we built in the last video? Yeah, so we're not really gonna need this anymore. All right, guys, welcome back. So as you saw, I just took the table or the desk legs off of the desktop, and you might be wondering why. Well, today we're going to take it a step further than the previous video. The last one was meant to be as cheap and easy as possible for people who don't want to spend a lot of money, or they don't have a lot of tools, or they don't have a lot of experience. This one, we're going to kind of go with the same concept, but we're going to take it a little bit further. It's going to be slightly more difficult, but still pretty easy. It's going to be slightly more expensive, but still pretty cheap. You might need a few more 2x4s. Again, they're like $2 and I don't know, $2.60 or something like that a piece. So it's not going to be a whole lot more money. I've sketched out kind of an idea I have. I don't know if you can see that. That's what we're going to try to get to. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so this would typically be the part of the video where I would tell you what materials you're going to need and what tools you're going to need. This is going to be a little different because I'm not quite sure how much wood you're going to be using. I can tell you you're going to need the 2x6s that were used in the previous video, and if you didn't watch the previous one, I'll link it here or down there somewhere. And you can see how we made this desktop. You're gonna do the same thing. Two 2x6s cut to 4 feet in length and glued together, basically. A little more than that, but you'll see in the other video. Now, from there, you can stop that video, come back here. And what we're gonna do now is we are going to use our 2x4s. I'm gonna use two 2x4s per leg support, and I want this piece to stick out further. The end that's this table is going to go up against the wall, so the end that's going to be against the wall is going to be flush with the back of the tabletop. This piece is going to stick out a little further, and then there's going to be a second one here, and the leg is going to be sandwiched in the middle like this. So it's just going to give it a little bit of a different design. Okay, so we're going to measure 3.5 inches out, and so we know we can make our mark on this side because this is where it's going to need to be cut, like that. And now we're going to cut here. Okay, so we've cut 4 pieces at 24.5 inch. 24.5. Okay, so we've got our 4 support boards cut, and now we're gonna do the legs. Just like in the previous video, we're gonna keep the table at 30 inches tall, or the desk. We're going to need to cut our legs to 28.5 inches. Because the tabletop or the desktop is 1.5 inches thick. So to get the desktop right at 30, we'll cut this to 28.5. And we're probably gonna go to our third 2x4, cutting the legs. And we may need a ladybug. We're probably gonna need a 4th 2x4 to finish this out, but that's pretty good. So overall, 2 2x6s and 4 2x4s. That's not bad. Now we go on to the third 2x4. All right, so now we've got 4 legs cut at 28.5 inches each. We've got our 4 support beams that are going to be attached to the desktop cut, and we've got our 4 legs cut. So I think what I'm going to do now is on the 4 support beams, I'm going to run through the table saw to get rid of this rounded edge here. We're going to get it nice and flat like we did with the tabletop so that we could glue them all together flush, because I'm going to take one side off, and that's going to be the side that goes on the desktop. On the legs, 2 of them, I'm going to take both sides off so it's nice and flat. One side, 2 of them, I'm going to leave one side rounded, which is going to be the side that's going to go outward towards you as you're sitting at it, and that way we don't have a sharp edge that you're going to be hitting your legs on. So the first thing you're going to do is move your fence over so that you're just nicking the edge off. That's all you need, and that's what we're going to do right now. Support beams are done. Now we're going to do the legs. All right, we've cut down the 4 legs and the 4 support beams. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble everything. So figure out which one's going to be the top. So this side right here for me is going to be the top once it's all assembled. So make sure that is the flat part that you just cut. And for the legs, make sure the flat piece that you just cut is on the inside. So you should have 2 flat sides facing each other. And this is going to get you a better, more flush area or surface when we're going to cut in a few minutes another support brace right here like this. So make sure you have the flat surfaces facing each other. All right, so just line it up to the end, and you're gonna have the other on top. And so it's gonna look something like that. And I'll bring the camera around now so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, now you can see here what it looks like. And this portion is what's gonna be on the bottom of your table. When you flip everything up, this is gonna be mounted to the bottom of the table. So I think how I'm gonna assemble all of this first is I'm gonna glue it together to make it a little more stable. So first we'll start with some glue. And rub it in like that. And in a minute, we will make sure everything is nice and square. And you're going to put some more glue on this side and more glue right here. Okay. Make sure you have everything square. The easiest is going to be to use a square. So what you're going to do is put one side to the bottom and make sure everything lines up. So that looks pretty good. And we'll do the same thing with the other side. Okay, now that I have it all squared, I'm going to clamp this whole thing together. And hopefully I won't move this around too much. Okay, at this point we have everything glued and clamped together, and we can put a couple of screws in it for extra support. Put a couple in on this side as well as the other side. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to put 2 in each. Okay, now the fun part, we're gonna flip it over. You're gonna have to make sure your clamps aren't in the way. There you go. All right, we've got everything glued and screwed. So now we can put it in place. And at this point, I'm gonna unclamp. Even though the wood glue isn't dry, the screws I just put in will help keep it in place. And that'll give you an idea of what it's gonna look like. Also, it's personal preference if you'd like, and if you wanna spend more time on it, you could always use a jigsaw or a scroll saw or a bandsaw and cut some sort of design into these legs. Give it a different look. I'm not going to do that for the sake of time, but it's pretty easy to do. All you've got to do is trace out a pattern on one leg, cut it out, and then use that as a pattern for the rest of your legs. You'll just lay it on top, trace it, and cut them out all the same. And then you can create a different look to your table. So for now, I'm going to leave it as is, and we're going to go ahead and attach the legs. Actually, before we do that, we'll cut the supports out for these legs, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. All right, so what we're going to do now is go ahead and cut the support beam for the legs. The way we're going to do that, we're just going to line this up right to the edge, and don't pull it down all the way in there like how it's going to be once it's glued together or put together. You want to have it put it right on the top, because when you push it down like that, it's going to push the whole board forward a little bit, and then your line isn't going to be accurate. So get it just to the top so that you have it lined up over here, and then we're going to draw a mark underneath with your pencil. And then we'll go ahead and flip it over, and we'll measure from the edge to that line. And we're right at 18 inches. And then we'll compare that to what this distance is. And 18, okay. So we'll go ahead and cut that. And we'll cut one more. You only need two. All right, so you should have two support beams at 18 inches each. All right, at this point, we're gonna figure out where we wanna place the cross beam on the legs, how far up. So I am kind of thinking I want it in this area here. So I'm going to figure out where the top of that is. I'm going to mark that right there, and then I'm going to measure up to it. And it's exactly 11.5 inches. So I'll go to this side and I'll mark 11.5 inches as well. All right. I'm going to use a bit of glue on either end to glue it into place. And then we'll screw it into place after that. All right, we've got our support beam here glued and clamped, and now we're going to go ahead and screw it in. Now, if you don't have one of these, I recommend getting one. It helps you create what's called a pocket hole. It gives you, you can clamp it here and it'll drill in, and it gives you a nice clean pocket to screw into. Because this is kind of a basic video, again, I'm going to assume that maybe you don't have a tool like this. They're not all that expensive, so if you plan on building a lot more projects, I recommend you go out and get one of these. If you don't have one, then you can kind of accomplish the same thing with your drill by, well, I'll just show you instead of explaining. So you're going to want to start straight up, and you're just going to drill in a little bit. And then you're going to lean it over, you're going to drill in a little more. And then you're going to lean it over further and keep drilling. And once you've got a good angle on it, you're going to push it in. Like that. And that'll give you, it's going to give your screw a pretty good guide to get in diagonally. So we'll go ahead and do that. And there we go, just like that. So we'll do the same thing with the other side. And you should only need one screw for this part. All right, we can go ahead and remove the clamp now. And now, our first leg is complete. All right, so now our first leg is assembled and it's ready to be mounted to the table. But before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna assemble the other leg the same way. So you saw how it was done. I'm just gonna go ahead and fast forward through this part and you can watch, but I won't explain anything. Just do what I did with this one, all right? Okay, now we're going to go ahead and attach the legs to the desktop. The way we're going to do that, we're going to need some of our wood glue. And we're going to glue it first. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to screw it in with more pocket holes. Also, something I should mention, I decided I'm not going to go completely flush with the back of the tabletop or desktop. I'm going to have it hang over about 1 inch. And the reason I'm doing that is that when I have the legs completely butted up against the wall that it's going to be sitting at, it'll leave a 1 inch gap that I can run power cords for the computer and other things that I have on the desk down behind, so they're not getting pinched up against the wall between the wall and the desk. So if you want to do that, that's fine. If not, if you want to make it so that it's completely even on both sides, however you want to do it, it's up to you. This is just kind of a basis for building this. So I'm going to go with about 1 inch over. And then the next step, once you've got that lined up, is to make sure it's square. That looks good on this side. And this side. So got that in place. We're going to go ahead and put a few screws in it. All right, there we go. And you can see it's very, very sturdy. So we'll do the last side and then we're done. It's a matter of sanding, staining, painting, whatever it is you feel like doing. So I'm going to measure on this side how far I have it from the edge, which is about 1 1/8. So this side will go 1 1/8. Alright. So we'll get some glue on it, and then we'll have to recheck our placement. That looks good. Yeah, that looks good. And we'll check that it's square. Okay, we're all done. We'll get it on the ground and check it out. Okay folks, at this point we are pretty much done. There's only one more thing to do, and it's not completely necessary. This will basically determine whether you're going to use 3 or 4 2x4s, and that's to add a cross beam on the back of the table. Now as it is, it's very, very, very sturdy. It's not going to go anywhere. But if you want that extra reassurance, or you just like the look of it, you're going to cut your cross beam. And for me, I had to cut it to 39 3/8, I believe it was. But check yours, because we've probably all placed ours table legs at a different width. So check yours and make sure that's what you need. And go ahead and glue it and drill it. And once you're done with that, it's basically going to look something like that. And there you go. I think if you do the cross beam, you're looking at 4 2x4s and 2 2x6s at 8 feet in length each. And if you don't do that cross beam, then you're looking at 3 2x4s and 2 2x6 at 8 feet. So 15 to 1860, something like that. That's how much you're looking in price. $15 to $18. That is not too bad. So last step again is to sand, and then you can paint it or stain it or whatever you'd like to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done, which I said I was gonna do yesterday and I never did on my previous video because I knew I wanted to do this. But today I'm gonna sand it, stain it, and then let you guys take a look at what my finished product looks like. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and come back and check for other videos. I'm going to be posting new ones as often as I can. It won't be daily, but it'll be pretty often. So thanks a lot, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.
Thank you.